It is indeed 4 o'clock on a very busy Wednesday. A lot going on. The New York Giants are going to begin the Mike Kafka era on Sunday. He met the media for the very first time today as he replaces Brian Daboll. And the New York Jets, believe it or not, are going to play tomorrow. It's sneaking up on you, but they're going to look to win their third consecutive game as they do it against the New England Patriots. And joining us right now, a guy who does a great job covering both teams for SNY, and that is Connor Hughes. Connor, good to talk to you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Evan. How are you, buddy?
Good. What was your reaction to that Monday early afternoon announcement that Brian Daboll is being removed of his duties?
It wasn't overly surprising. I don't think that was the case. You know, there were, when they blew the fourth quarter, they endured that fourth quarter collapse again, and Dart got hurt. That was when I think all of us who cover the team started talking to the people that we know, and everyone was kind of put on high alert. And it was just a matter of when they were going to pull the trigger. But I don't think it was super surprising. It's actually Aaron Glenn who has the saying that the final 4 minutes of each half are on the coaching staff, and the Giants have just been a complete and total disaster in that regard. So, it became pretty clear that, A, the fourth quarter collapses were getting to ownership, and then, two, I think there was a little bit of a different agenda with the way that Brian Daboll was coaching this team, where it was almost a bit in an act of self-preservation with the way that he was using Jackson Dart. And every one of us within the media has brought up to him that the hits that Dart takes is just not sustainable. You know, he's not 250 like Josh Allen, man. The guy's like 220 pounds wet. So it's just, he knew that it was going to catch up to him. He's been checked 4 times for a concussion. When he gets hurt on another designed quarterback run, it was just like, what are we doing here? So Giants decided to move on from Daboll, and now we start the Mike Kafka era.
Just to follow that up real quick, Connor, how much of that is on Mike Kafka? He's the play caller, correct?
You're right, yeah. I mean, I think it is a little bit of both, but it's just, Tiki, and maybe this is just a detriment to who we get a chance to talk to every single day.
No, you're right.
We're not hammering Kafka every single day about what's going on. I mean, the Jackson Dart's play style has been a topic dating back to training camp. I mean, I literally, if you remember, the very first preseason game against the Buffalo Bills, he didn't slide. He got walloped from the side. He fumbled. If I think the Giants recovered that one, or maybe he was eventually ruled down, something like that. But we're in the locker room talking to Dart, and we're like, hey, don't you got to slide? Don't you got to slide? And he goes, yeah, I got to protect myself. But honestly, I kind of think Daboll likes it.
Yeah.
And so this has never been something that was stressed, never been something that's been pointed out. It's always been like, hell yeah, dude, go play with your you-know-what on fire. Let's go do this. And
right.
It was going to catch up to the Giants, and it did.
And in fairness, this is a very subjective question that I'm going to ask now. But tell me, Connor, how you felt listening to Mike Kafka. Because we can read it, but we weren't there. How did you feel listening to him as now the interim head coach?
It was better than when he was the offensive coordinator. I mean, his press conferences when he was an offensive coordinator were bad, man. I mean, it was like just eye-rolling cliches and just nothing there. I mean, there was a little bit more energy, which actually Darius Slayton talked about. He said Kafka was kind of popping around a little bit once he was named head coach. So he was a little bit more enlightening, a little bit more informative, offered a little bit more color. I thought he was certainly there was a stretch there where I was like, man, it is just going to be something you want to skip every single day. But I don't think it was like that. It was certainly better than it's been.
All right, there's a couple of things I want to get to with Tim Kelly. Ultimately, he's the offensive coordinator. What's going to happen potentially change-wise defensively. But I can't go farther without asking you about Jameis Winston, because we just heard some sound from his press conference, and I can't wait to play it because he is glorious to listen to. The feel on Jameis, we knew what he was here for, long-term tutor or mentor, you could say, for Jackson Dart. He's a 2-year deal instead of the 1-year deal like Russell Wilson, but he's getting the start. We said on Monday the Russell Wilson era has to end. You can't go forward with that any longer. Jameis is going to bring excitement. He's going to be some screaming and yelling, positive and negative. But what was the feel around everyone with the Jameis Winston news?
Yeah, the press conference was something, right? I was actually in the locker room talking to some guys, and then I caught the sound from our Mike Kenny was our videographer for SNY, and he was singing Hamilton lyrics and all that stuff. So he's 101, man. And
no doubt.
Jameis, there's a show that comes with Jameis that's not only just the quarterback. And I think maybe at this point in his career, he understands who he is, that he's embraced being the entertainer, almost readying himself for a life after football. I think from a player perspective, they don't care what he says on a podium. I think what guys are pretty amped up about right now is that they know that there is no such thing as a 50-50 ball with Jameis Winston. The guy has never seen a throwing lane or a hole that he doesn't believe he can complete a pass into. And there are going to be times where that works, and you're like, holy cow, I can't believe he threaded that needle. And there's going to be times where you're like, holy cow, there's Jameis Winston's 5th interception of the day. You know, that's who he is. You live with it, you die by it. I don't think it's sustainable long-term, which is why not that many people were vying for his services this offseason. He's probably just a backup quarterback who's perfectly suited to give you 2 or 3 games of a spark when he has to go in there, but you don't want to see him for 8 to 10 games. So I think guys are actually pretty amped up. I know Darius Slayton was, because I brought it up to him. I said, this is a guy who kind of is known to give his receivers a chance, and his eyes lit up like a kid on Christmas, man. I mean, he's excited because you know that when you have a quarterback that's going to take chances like that, it's going to give the receivers chances to make plays on the ball.
Not that we should care about Russell Wilson, but what was his reaction to being benched? It's one thing to be benched for the first-round pick. Now he's being benched for Jameis Winston.
Yeah, I'll be honest. We can talk about draft picks, and we can talk about evaluations, and we can talk about miscalculations and all that. I don't know if there was a worse miscalculation made by the Giants than what they had with Russell Wilson, Evan, because this guy, forget the fact they had him. I have zero qualm whatsoever with the Giants saying, hey, Russell's got the Steelers to the playoffs. We're looking for a bridge quarterback. Let's bring him in here and let's kind of see if we can squeeze a little last juice out of a guy who's got a chance to make the Hall of Fame. No, the Giants brought him in, named him the starting quarterback no matter what. There was absolutely no quarterback controversy where we weren't even seeing other guys, especially Jackson Dart, get first-team reps in summer. So even when Dart took over, there was no chemistry with Jackson Dart. With Malik Neighbors whatsoever. He never worked with him. They gave Russell every single rep. They said, we know this guy has a ton of great football left in him, yada, yada, yada. And now, not only was he benched for Dart, but now he's benched for Jameis Winston. And I just don't think you can overlook that. I really don't. I think that if this was, and I've talked to people within that building, that if this was an open competition, people believe that Russell Wilson never would have been the starter against the Commanders in Week 1, that he would have lost that job.
100%. I agree with that, Connor. Yeah. I was there. I saw some of training camp. He doesn't throw the ball over the middle of the field. It negates literally 70% of what they want to do in their passing game. And I love the guy. He's awesome. And he's motivational. He's very authentic, even though it's sometimes weird and corny, but it is what it is. It's the Jameis Winston, now Jackson Dart show. But the question that now persists is Mike Kafka is the head coach. He is going to continue to call plays, which we know is daunting. The Sean Paytons of the world and the Andy Reids, they've been doing this forever. It's not an issue for them. He named Tim Kelly as the offensive coordinator, and he talked about marrying the run and the pass and some of the in-game decisions. What effect is that going to have? What's the machination going to look like come game day for Mike Kafka now calling the plays, also making his decisions, but Tim Kelly being the OC?
We're going to learn. And Brian Daboll a year ago, when he took play calling back from Kafka, he was adamant that look at all these offensive-minded coaches, and of them, he had the stats. It was 87% call their own plays, yada, yada, yada. But I've seen it work really well when head coaches take over. I mean, Tiki, you were probably on you were when Fossil took him back, right? 100%. He took him back from Sean Payton. Yeah, so there have been times where you have the head coach takes it back and it works and all that stuff. So I've seen it both ways. You can point out that was a while ago, but you can point towards that and several other examples. You can also go to where it was a complete and total disaster, where Jeff Ulbrich retained the defensive play calling for the Jets and just completely and totally drowned. So I think that Kafka, for the time being, is going to continue to call plays. If it totally and completely regresses, it wouldn't surprise me if he hands them back over. But you kind of got to wait and see what it looks like before totally judging if he can or can't do it.
We're talking to Connor Hughes about the Giants. We'll get to the Jets in a couple of minutes. It feels like when Jeff Ulbrich took over, there was no chance he was going to keep that job. When Steve Spagnuolo took over for Ben McAdoo, there was no chance he was going to keep that job. It feels a little different for Mike Kafka, that it may not be the likeliest scenario, but if they win, he can keep the job. Where do you stand on Kafka possibly being a real legitimate candidate for this job, and what do you think needs to happen for him to turn it into the real job?
Believe it or not, Evan, when the Jets, I know it was such a total disaster with Ulbrich that it's like, oh my God, there was no way. and actually believed he was giving the team a spark and Jeff could have been the head coach. Like, that was actually, it was flawed thinking, very, very flawed thinking, but that was real. That wasn't just like, oh, finish this one out. They thought they had like a legitimate head coach on staff in Jeff. I think that there's a better chance than people think that if Kafka performs very well the rest of this year, the Giants don't stick with him. And the big reason why, and Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post points this out all the time whenever I talk to him, is that John Mara has talked about many of his regrets over the past years, and one of the biggest ones was the way that he believed, or by just consistently and constantly changing the head coach, changing the offensive play caller, changing the scheme that he was trying to learn, that basically the Giants did absolutely nothing to help him. If Kafka shows the potential to be a real good head coach, and he's certainly, this isn't just a Giants logic. He's interviewed 8 times for head coaching openings and had opportunities elsewhere, I think, to get offensive coordinator spots that maybe would have gotten him to a head coaching job sooner. The Giants just kept blocking them and not letting him take a lateral move. If he shows some legitimacy these next few weeks, the rest of this year, the Giants finish the season with a winning record, which I know seems crazy saying now, but Jackson Dart gets back in there and really starts thriving or keeps thriving like he had and like he was playing before the Bears. I don't think it's an asinine thing to think that Kafka is going to stay, because you've got a guy at that point who would have shown let him hire his own defensive coordinator in the offseason, right. And you can see the relationship budding with Dart.
Yeah, let's talk about the defensive coordinator. We're getting a lot of calls and a lot of speculation about why did Shane Bowen keep his job. It's been bad, et cetera, et cetera. And we heard Kafka talk about the communication, and maybe it feels like there's going to be some changes. I think the reality is, and you can confirm or deny or refute this, there really wasn't someone to take his spot on staff, and so Shane Bowen stays. But what's going to change, if anything?
I would say that it would have been a lot if they fired Daboll on Monday, so within 5 or 6 days, to ask Mike Kafka to take over as this team's head coach, no longer the offensive coordinator, find a new offensive coordinator. Oh, by the way, promote somebody else to be your defensive coordinator. I think that would be a lot for a guy who hasn't done it before, because Kafka's never been a head coach. The key word in everything that everyone has said and everyone's spoken to and everyone's kind of reported on now is that additional staff changes are not expected, and Kafka literally said this today, right now. Right now, they are not expecting additional staff changes. If the Packers drop 30 on the Giants on Sunday, I fully expect there to be a new defensive coordinator the next week for the Giants. Right, I do. I fully expect that.
So, Connor, should we hear this as everyone is on notice?
Everyone who you would think should be on notice is on notice.
Right.
Like I don't think like Kelly's on notice as the offensive coordinator, or I don't think stuff like that. But yeah, defensively and specifically with Shane Bowen, yeah, I think so, because. But John Mara, you know him a heck of a lot better than I do, Tiki. That is a passionate, emotional, die-hard Giants fan more than anything else. He's not a fan that's out there that looks at this as a business, making money and all that stuff. He lives and dies with this team.
Yep.
And those losses are they're eating them up. And the defense, which was eating them up all the way back to last year when we talked to him at the end of the season, it's still eating them up. Where if it continues, there's going to be a change. I would be floored if there wasn't.
Which is why, we're talking to Connor Hughes, which is why when the Giants released the statement a few days ago that said Joe Schoen is going to lead the head coaching search, I was skeptical, because in my mind, like, if they go 0-7, if this season is a disaster, correct, I could see ownership changing their mind. So for Giant fans out there, because many want Joe Schoen gone, they want him gone today, where do things stand on Joe Schoen's future as the general manager of the Giants?
So I reported this right after Daboll was fired, and it's kind of the best way to describe it. And it's I am removing my personal opinion from this, because at the end of the day, like, I'll write a column and tell you all I think about what the Giants should do and the job that Joe Schoen's done, and I kind of did that a couple days ago and explained how my stance on it. But at the end of the day, like, my opinion doesn't matter, man. So this is me explaining to you how the Giants do things and what the Giants are thinking.
All right.
There are still people within this organization who are very high on Joe Schoen and that hold Joe Schoen in a very high regard. They do not have any plans right now in replacing Joe Schoen. They plan on having him lead their head coaching search and being a very commanding voice along with Tisch and Mara in this head coaching search. They look at this roster and see this roster as one that has legitimate talent. And we can absolutely poke holes in it. We can find the faults in that statement, but that is how the Giants think right now. If this team wins one game the rest of the year, or even with Kafka, and they've gotten rid of Brian Daboll, who is now scapegoated as the reason they keep losing these close games, if the wheels completely fall off like they did for Jeff Ulbrich and the Jets a year ago, I do not think that Joe Schoen is 100% safe in any way, shape, or form. The Giants aren't expecting that to happen, which is why the Giants expect Schoen back, and they still hold him in this high regard. But if the wheels completely fall off this thing, I do think additional changes could come.
All right, last one before we kick over to the Jets. Jackson Dart in concussion protocol. Any idea when he's going to get back to football operation or football, whatever, activities, et cetera, and be cleared? Because it could be a week, it could be longer.
Yeah, unfortunately, they gave us nothing on that.
Right.
Like that was, I mean, aside from telling us to ask Rich Cimini, we were not, we weren't given too much in terms of the injury report.
Speaking of Rich Cimini, Cimini, Connor.
Yeah, my guy. I love Rich.
We all do. What's your take on Aaron Glenn's new approach towards the media? Sometimes it's humorous. He's legitimately laughing, and other times it's like, are you effing with me, or like, what's going on here? Like, so how do you take Aaron Glenn after his second consecutive win after the bye week?
I'll say I talked to somebody actually at the Jets about this. I can get into arguments until I'm blue in the face about why I don't feel an adversarial relationship with the media is beneficial to anyone involved. But it's very clear that Glenn just doesn't care. So he doesn't care. So he doesn't care if the back pages of the Post and the Daily News and Newsday rip him to shreds. He doesn't care if they're standing in the media throwing him fastball. And if he doesnly care, then all I'm going to do is turn blue in the face. Like nothing's going to change. It's just, It's his opinion. I think I actually read a little bit that he was kind of ornery like this as well in Detroit with the media. His thing was just like, it's with the media. You know what I mean? Like, it's just how he was. So this is just how he is. And it's not a bad, I mean, look, I don't take it personal.
Right.
I throw plenty of shots at coaches and general managers. I can't sit here and be like, oh my God, how dare you if they throw a couple back at me. You know what I mean?
It feels very, right, Connor, it feels very Jim Fossilish to me in 2000. Yeah. Like, look at me. And everything else that really matters is going to happen without you ever asking about it.
Yeah. I have. Yeah, like honestly, I have no problem with it. Like it's not. Now, granted, like it's not gonna like make suddenly softballs come out of nowhere. If anything, anyone who's got a fastball is gonna start throwing it. You're turning into the Terminator in Major League right now. Like everyone's gonna throw one. Yeah. But it's just if he's willing to deal with that, then like go for it. Like all right, fine. Like it's just who he is. And that's what I said. I was talking to somebody, like I said, I was talking to somebody over at the Jets. It's like, at the end of the day, we can argue, is this the right tactic? Is this the wrong tactic? It doesn't matter because the guy, he doesn't care. So he's just going to do things his way and for better or worse.
Connor, you said something the other day that really made me sick. And it's nothing you said. It's your reporting, so it's nothing like personal. But you were talking about Mike Vrabel, who the Jets will face tomorrow night.
Oh, yeah.
And you said, and I want you to repeat it for everyone if they didn't hear this, that basically he liked us. He was willing to come here, if not for Robert Kraft saying, let's get rid of Jared Mayo after 1 year. That gives me a stomachache thinking about Mike Vrabel possibly in an alternate universe being the Jets head coach.
Yeah, well, dude, I mean, that's a credit to them. Like, you guys know me. Like, I have no problem taking shots at the Jets. Everyone makes fun of me for that. But that's a legitimate testament to them. Like, he was not turned off by Woody Johnson at all. He had he had very, very good conversations with Jaime. Like he liked everybody within the building. And I genuinely believe, and this isn't me being led the wrong way, I did not get this from anyone over at the Jets. So I did not hear this from the Jets side. This is not the Jets sources or Jets personnel or anyone over in that building calling me and saying, hey Connor, guess what? Mike Vrabel really loved us. This is not from their side whatsoever. This is from Mike's side. That said, they liked them. Like he genuinely liked the Jets. And based off of the conversations I had from that side of things, I feel very confident saying that if the Patriot job didn't come in and the Patriots being like I compared it on SNY to essentially when you can't compete with a major college offering their former alum the job. Like, the guy's always going to go back to his alma mater,
right,
unless you're blowing him away with money. He was always going to go back to the Patriots if the Patriots job opened. If the Patriots job didn't, Mike Vrabel, I would say, I'm pretty confident saying he's the Jets head coach in that alternate reality.
Crazy. And he's done absolutely a stupendous job for the Patriots as the Jets play
he's unbelievable, Ab.
Amazing.
Unbelievable. Now he's got a quarterback. Like,
I
you should have known this when he went to the playoffs with Ryan freaking Tannehill.
Right.
now you got May. Like, a little different.
Now, I take you back a year ago. The date was November 19th, 2024, so a little less than a year ago. We had you on the air. The Jets didn't have a head coach, and it was early in the process. Obviously, it's November. They're not going to hire anybody right away. And we said, look, I know it's tough, Connor. Give us a long-term prediction on who the next head coach of the Jets would be. And your answer was Aaron Glenn. So you nailed it.
Yeah. Good for me.
So Giant fans have high expectations now when I ask you the same question. On November 12th, 2025, if you look into the Connor Hughes Oracle crystal ball, who will the next head coach of the Giants be?
I from my understanding, from talking, I've been making calls over the last couple of days trying to dig up and people who have talked to it. The thing that the Giants are looking for, from my understanding, is somebody who's gonna take control of this locker room and lead the locker room. They want somebody who's gonna rally. This is not. They're looking for. I remember when the Jets moved on from Todd and they wanted the offensive minded genius to rear Sam Darnold. Like, this isn't that. They're not looking for the offensive guru to rear the Jackson Dart. They're not looking for that. They're looking for a leader of men. From my understanding, CEO type, and it doesn't matter where the guy comes from, college ranks, pro ranks.
Interesting.
I love, and I think it would be an absolute home run hire if they found a way to get Kevin Stefanski. Now, I don't know if the Browns are going to move on from him. I don't know if the Giants are going to be willing to go out of their comfort zone again, because there are no connections to Stefanski from Joe Schoen. There is no connection there from John Mara. But if he's let go, I just don't know how you don't see that as a very similar Mike Vrabel hire, because Vrabel was the two-time coach of the year, like Stefanski, took a team to the playoffs where he basically exceeded all expectations, and then now look at what the Patriots are now that he has talent and a quarterback and all that stuff. I think Stefanski would be a home run hire. It's a little bit of a cop-out, but I ultimately think they probably hire somebody that they know who has ties to the organization, because that's just what they do. They end up, Shane and Daboll had no ties, didn't work. Now they're going to swing back to people that do. But if it was me, I'd go Stefanski. I think
there is a tie, Connor. You're just not seeing it. Peter John Baptiste.
There you go. Yeah, there you go, Tiki. That's before my time. That's why I didn't find that one.
There you go.
I've got Dion and Pat. Those are the two guys I know.
Exactly. Connor, we appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
No problem, guys. Thank you for having me on. Black
Here he is, Connor Hughes, SNY, on the Jets and the Giants. And by the way, we like to prove this to the audience. Mm-hmm. So would you like to hear the clip of Connor Hughes from November 19th, 2024, predicting Aaron Glenn as the next head coach of the New York Jets?
Absolutely.
Here it is. So we're not making it up. Connor from a year ago.
Coach that I do believe is going to get a lot of consideration, and I could see him getting the job if he doesn't go to New Orleans, is Aaron Glenn. I think he hasn't done it before. He's not the offensive mind, but he's somebody who I think would take the job. I think he would excite the fan base. I think he would excite ownership. And a lot of people around the league really value him.
I love that.
All those three things were right. Like, the fan base was excited.
Right.
Ownership was excited.
Right.
And, where are we right now at 2-7? I mean, we don't know.
You feel positive in the last couple of weeks, that's for sure. Sports Talk on WFAN is presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday, all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. There will be a football game at Giant Stadium this weekend. Heading the New York Giants will be Jameis Winston, and this is why you're going to love him.
I want fans to know that I'm going to do my best. Obviously, I'm going to have fun, but I'm going to execute, have a surgical execution, and just play ball, man. Like, this is something I've been doing since I've been 4 years old. Now I just get to do it in the greatest city in the world. I'm going to be saying it with my son. It's the greatest city in the world. Yeah, that's a Hamilton reference if y'all don't know. 10-year reunion.
Oh, I love it.